Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's been a few years. My name's Sean McMahon, and we are otherwise known as Thunder or Thundercasts, and we are back with some VGC reviewing. We're going to be doing as daily as I can possibly get for reviewing games, matchups from VGC tournaments that have taken place over the last few weeks. Today, as I'm recording this, we just wrapped up the Pokemon VGC San Antonio Regional Championships in Texas. I got to catch a good bit of it live. I know the results of a decent amount of these, but we're going to take you through them, and we're going to be doing practice recasts to get myself some experience and break things down in game for y'all at home. The first match that we are going to be looking at, I'm going to go ahead and change it over to the screen, is going to be Justin Tang versus Chase Lybbert. As you saw the names there, we're going to look over the teams in a little bit, but like I said, this is day 2, top 32. They've already played a few rounds, but we're starting off with a look at Justin Tang's team. This is a pretty standard Calyrex team nowadays at this point. The main additions that you're going to see that you might not always notice are the Roaring Moon and Landorus Incarnate. Landorus Therian has fallen off, and its normal, well, its non-transformed other half has taken the stage. Sludge Bomb, Earth Power, and Sandsteer Storm are its 3 attacking moves. Sheer Force plus Life Orb, make sure you don't have the recoil with all of the benefits. Roaring Moon has some other funky interactions. The Booster Energy is an item that's going to disappear right away. Give it some pretty big buffs, usually in speed, so that it can get off some fast tailwinds, and then load up on some very strong acrobatics with Terra Flying. You have the other Ice Rider stuff, Urshifu, Amoonguss, a little bit of a Trick Room mode that really leans into the power of the Calyrex Ice Rider. It's a phenomenal Pokemon, hasn't had really too big of a chance to shine, but a lot of people are using it. On the other side of the table, you have a team focused around one of the most successful Pokemon in the current regulation, and that is Miraidon. I just noticed that it says ultimate mode on there. I guess the sandwiches gives it additional modes, but it's a choice specs Miraidon. This thing's going to be doing a heck of a lot of damage, although it is Terra Ghost. It will buff up the Iron Crown along with it. It also has a Life Orb with the Quark Drive. Iron Crown is not all that common, but it can do a good amount of damage. There is no expanding force on it, no Indeedee to pair with it, instead opting to get the power boost from the electric terrain from Miraidon. Otherwise, you have a pretty standard lineup with Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Incineroar, Whimsicott, and then Ursaluna, just the base form with Guts and a Flame Orb as kind of a little answer into a Trick Room mode. It has Substitute, Headlong Rush, and Facade. It's going to be doing a lot of damage once it gets a Protect off. The speed control here, you're going to be looking at the Whimsicott. Tailwind, Encore is a great utility move, and then Incineroar with a pretty standard moveset for any Assault Vest Incineroar, a decent amount of utility even though it's all damaging moves, and then Rapid Strike Urshifu with the Defensive Terra and Mystic Water. Notably, there's a ton of different Terras and items that Rapid Strike Urshifu can have. Choice Scarf, Choice Band, Focus Sash, all sorts of things, all sorts of different Terras, but that Defensive Terra Grass with the Mystic Water gives it some utility without sacrificing too much damage. So on one side, we've got kind of a slower pace, but mixed speed Calyrex Ice team going up against a fast, speedy, hard-hitting Miraidon team, especially looking at that Iron Crown to see if that gets pulled out from Chase here. But the leads on both sides. Justin Tang starts with a Calyrex and Amoonguss, some redirection to potentially get that Trick Room off the ground and running, and Chase goes for max damage off the bat, physical and special. That Hadron engine putting the electric terrain on the battlefield, keeping everybody awake. No sleep here. Rage Powder is going to come out from Amoonguss. This Ice Rider Calyrex is almost guaranteed to get Trick Room set up this turn. I think that means we probably won't see Roaring Moon coming out here in this game. Who knows, though? Who knows? Now, for Chase, you have the options. Are you going to try to take out this Amoonguss? You can pretty safely assume that Rage Powder is coming through. It is a Covert Cloak Amoonguss, not a Rocky Helmet, so you're not too scared about hitting it with Surging Strikes, even though it's not going to do a ton of damage. The Rage Powder comes out. We're going to have to see what Chase has decided to go for here. The Volt Switch is pretty notable. It does about 100 damage to the Amoonguss. Does not put it into Surging Strike range, maybe close combat range, but it switches the Miraidon out. This could be where we might see that Ursaluna come in if Chase is anticipating a Trick Room coming up. Ursaluna is slow, but if it switches in here, the Flame Orb will come online. It'll be doing a ton of damage if it can survive whatever Calyrex is going to throw out on the next turn. I don't know the exact speed stats of these two Pokemon, but Calyrex could definitely be slower. Surging Strikes coming through does about another third to Amoongus's health bar, putting it within range of just about any attack that Chase is going to be throwing at it with these three very, very strong offensive Pokemon. But the Calyrex actually goes for a Glacial Lance here, calling it a huge switch. The Ursaluna gets put down to about a quarter health, doesn't do a ton to Urshifu, but neither of these two Pokemon on Justin's side of the field are all too threatened by it at this point. Now, if you're Justin Tang, this Ursaluna does have Guts activated. The Flame Orb has come through, but its attack is not halved. It is instead massively, massively boosted. Facade is going to be doing a ton of damage. This Amoongus almost certainly will be going down if Chase chooses to have that happen. Otherwise, this Urshifu and Ursaluna can both probably combine to take out the Ice Rider. That said, Chase switches back out, brings the Iron Crown in. The Ursaluna just gets burned and then gets out. Quark Drive is going to be activated. This is going to be a big special attacking Iron Crown, and Surging Strikes is going to come through and do very little damage to this Calyrex. Now, we did also already see that this Amoongus clicked Pollen Puff. I said very little damage. It does half. That's still not going to be enough to KO it. Glacial Lance comes through again. Not going to be any KOs. Urshifu down below half and a little bit more on Iron Crown, but the Pollen Puff comes in, heals up Ice Rider Calyrex. It's going to be just below, just literally 1 HP below max health, and all of a sudden, all that hard work that Chase has done so far has gone down the drain. That said, Iron Crown can really, really easily take down this Amoongus, again, if Chase chooses to do so, but also has some Steel-type moves that are going to be super effective into the Calyrex. As we saw, Urshifu can put it down to half HP. That is absolutely going to be in range of almost anything that the Iron Crown throws at it. So now Justin has to consider, does he set up Trick Room now, or does he keep trying to throw out these really powerful Glacial Lances? They're not KOing, but they are doing quite a lot, and they're making Chase's life very, very difficult. Tachyon Cutter comes out, takes out the Amoongus, but the Rage Powder came out. It did its job. We know Surging Strikes doesn't take down this Calyrex, but does close combat. I doubt it. It's just a Mystic Water. Here comes the Surging Strikes again. We know exactly where this is going to land. It's max damage every single time. One more time, it's going to put it down to 106. Once again, actually it did slightly less damage, but you get my drift. Trick Room comes out, and now Calyrex is going to be the fastest thing on the field. We'll have to see what else Justin brought to it. And we see him right there. It's Landorus Incarnate, and it is Ogerpon Heart of Flame. Both of these players brought pretty much all offense save for that Amoongus, which Justin used immaculately. There is a ton of damage that has been dealt all across Chase's team. This Urshifu is going to be super weak. It's going to have a terrible time into this Ogerpon, especially considering Ogerpon is, again, not guaranteed, but most likely going to be slower than it. And Ogerpon also has redirection if Justin so chooses. A Follow Me could come through, or an outright attack. Chase opts to go for a Protect on the Iron Crown, anticipating some more offensive items coming through. Glacial Lance goes in, Iron Crown blocks it. Urshifu is going to take a decent chunk again. Going to go down to a little under a quarter into the red finally. This might just come down to where this Ivy Cudgel is going, and it goes into the Iron Crown, who stays up. Now, this is going to be huge. Surging Strikes has the chance to take out this Calyrex, but it's not a good one. It looks like it's going to survive on just a couple of hit points. It survives on 3. If Chase has Aqua Jet on this lineup, I'll be so frank with you, I don't remember if he does. But if he does, that could come in huge. Calyrex cannot protect through it. Ogerpon, I believe, could still Follow Me, but doesn't necessarily want to be taking an Aqua Jet. This is a very tricky position. It's all going to come down to who makes the right call. Both these trainers are very, very accomplished. They're going to be pretty darn good, but they're also going to be pretty darn tired at this point, making it into top 32 of day 2 here at this San Antonio Regional Championship. If you're Chase, you're kind of struggling a little bit. You do still have Miraidon in the back, but you don't really want to have to use it until after Trick Room goes down. Glacial Lance comes through, Urshifu gets taken out, and Iron Crown is left standing. No Aqua Jet coming through this time around. The Chilling Neigh boost comes in clutch, but again, it's a little bit dicey here. The Psyshock comes in, does a decent amount to the Ogerpon thanks to that Electric Terrain and the Life Orb boost. Now the Electric Terrain goes away. That Helping Hand was pretty helpful, I would say, from the Ogerpon, and now Chase has a pretty big choice to make. The Ursaluna comes out. So again, we are wondering which is faster, Calyrex or Ursaluna. That could make all the difference in the world. If you're Chase, I'm imagining you just kind of want to go for another Psyshock on this Ogerpon. You do know that it will KO it if it's at, since it did half HP, well, more than half HP before. Well, not guaranteed, but it will. Instead, we get a double protect here, potentially allowing for a Trick Room if Justin so chooses. Instead, we get a Follow Me from the Ogerpon and a Glacial Lance out of the Calyrex. But now that's guaranteed no protect out of Chase's Pokemon. Not necessarily guaranteed, but very unlikely that there's no protect out of Chase's Pokemon. Ursaluna takes a little bit of burn damage, and it's on a very, very low threshold here. I mean, if you're Justin, I don't mind this. You know they can't protect. That takes away 25% of Chase's potential options at minimum for combinations or for each single Pokemon. And, well, I guess not 25%. I guess technically if you get, well, I'm not going to get too far into the math, but it takes away some options. Follow Me comes through. Right now, this Glacial Lance could take out both of these Pokemon. Facade comes through, takes out the Ogerpon. It's down. We're going to have to see if Chase's Steel-type move on this Iron Crown is going to be enough. It's actually even slower than the Calyrex. Iron Crown goes down. It is about to be a 1v2 for the sake of Chase's game 1. That is a very, very strong Calyrex, though. It gets 2 more Chilling Neigh boosts. This thing is going to be taking out whatever it wants to hit. Now, Miraidon is going to be speedy as all get out. Unfortunately for it, there is a Landorus Incarnate coming out. This is probably the last thing that you want to see if you are Chase. You are choice specs. You cannot lock into an electric type move because Landorus resists it. You're going to have to hope that you don't die to a Glacial Lance, but unfortunately, you absolutely are. For Chase, this is all wrapped up, but you might as well give it your best shot. Chase goes ahead and Dynamaxes. Unfortunately, even with that ghost typing, you're no longer weak to anything, but you don't resist anything either. And both of these Pokemon hit like absolute trucks. We see Dynamax coming out from both sides, just letting the battle timer tick it on out. This fairy typing is pretty substantial on Calyrex Ice here. It eliminates a lot of resistances. It makes games a lot easier. The math just kind of flows a lot clearer, but the Dragon Pulse makes it impossible now for Chase to take out Calyrex. The Earth Power comes through, Miraidon goes down, and game 1 goes to Justin Tang. In very decisive fashion too, I might say. It was not really all that clear what would happen on the first turn if you are Chase. You're having to go up against an Amoonguss and a Calyrex Ice. The standard move, generally speaking, is going to be Amoonguss Rage Powder, Calyrex Ice, Trick Room. That's kind of the go-to. And if you're a good player, you're expecting that. And so Chase made a reasonable move, which was to bring in the Ursaluna. However, Justin had a phenomenal game plan going into that matchup. Knowing that, hey, he's going to want to get the Ursaluna in. He's going to want to make sure that the Flame Orb gets activated without too much risk. So bringing in that Ursaluna, you cover it by going Glacial Lance. The Calyrex wasn't really going to get hit with anything too crazy. It has a clear amulet. It could get hit with a fake out if there's an Incineroar that comes out first. But in that case, you're not all that mad. You have the Rage Powder still that you can use. And as we saw, it led into a pretty big snowball effect where Justin got a ton of damage out at the very start of the game, spread out all across Chase's team, leading into a pretty decisive victory. That said, we're going to go ahead and get into game 2. For Chase, leads the exact same thing, and so does Justin. Justin liked the game plan, felt good about it, might have a different idea as to what move Chase is going to make on this first turn. Like we said, we saw that Glacial Lance read coming off of game 1. And if you're Chase, I'm now terrified of that. You know Justin is willing to take some crazy risks here. The Rage Powder comes through, but the Miraidon stays in. Volt Switch comes out. I feel like I'm seeing double. But maybe if you're Chase, you go for the Surging Strikes. You try to get this Amoonguss out of the game as quickly as possible. those pollen puffs were absolutely huge in keeping that Calyrex alive. It ate up, I believe, over 400 points of damage, or at least over 300 points of damage. But this time, Chase makes the adaptation to bring in the Iron Crown off the bat. Now, last time we saw the Iron Crown is not faster than Calyrex. It is, in fact, slower than this Calyrex. Amoonguss is taking some damage here. It's not going to go down all the way. It's at a little over a quarter of its health. The Glacial Lance, it might come out here. It is indeed the Glacial Lance. We saw it didn't do too much damage to either of these Pokemon. A decent amount, but it's going to take about 4 hits for it to do all that much. Rage Powder for Amoonguss again, and this time it looks like Justin Tang has changed things up, and the response is going to have to be different. Ursaluna didn't come in. It is that now electric terrain boosted Iron Crown. Roaring Moon comes in now. This is something that we didn't see in game 1. A Pokemon, one of the Paradox Pokemon that has seen some of the least usage, or one of the less common ones. Hey, shout out to my boy. Can't even remember what its name is, but it's the Paradox version of Amoonguss. Blanking on it. But Roaring Moon is out and about. The Tachyon Cutter comes through, takes down the Amoonguss here. If Chase made a crazy call here with a close combat, that would absolutely delete this Roaring Moon, instead going for the resisted Surging Strikes. Of course, as we saw before, it does about half to the Calyrex Ice. Here, it only does about a third to this Roaring Moon. It's going to be able to put up a Tailwind, potentially, thanks to that booster energy already being on the field and raising its speed. There is no Tailwind. There is no speed control up for Chase. It's all just, Chase is really just kind of relying on the flow of the game, some timing and positioning to make this thing effective. And we actually see the Landorus Incarnate go ahead and come in. It's going to be able to do super effective damage to that Iron Crown. And if it's faster than this Urshifu, like I said, Roaring Moon, with that Tailwind, it could absolutely make this Landorus faster. It's going to be able to take an almost guaranteed KO. Urshifu is going to have to hope that it can get some Surging Strikes in on that Landorus and hope that it doesn't terrasilize and make it, give itself that extra survivability. Pretty sure it's Terra Water. Don't remember that sheet off the top of my head, but if it's Terra Water, this is bad news for Chase. If this Landorus stays up, Miraidon, Iron Crown, they're both in terrible straits. The Tailwind comes through. Landorus Incarnate is guaranteed to come out. The Sandsteer Storm has got to hit. Urshifu avoids it, but that's not really the one you're trying to hit. But the Iron Crown avoids it as well. A double miss is absolutely massive. The Psyshock comes through onto the Landorus, deals a huge chunk of damage. The Roaring Moon's Tailwind was big here, and Chase opts to go for the Surging Strikes, taking out that Landorus that is such a huge threat. It is now a 2v4. Roaring Moon and Calyrex Ice. Tailwind is set up, and this Calyrex Ice is not minimum speed. At least it doesn't seem like it is. So it could outspeed a couple things here. I don't know if it's going to outspeed Urshifu, but it could, which is very relevant. I doubt it's going to outspeed the Miraidon, but it is a tanky Pokemon. If it can get a little bit more damage, if it can get a little bit more value, the combination of two very strong physical attackers here, when facing down what is most likely not going to be an Incineroar or an Intimidator on the other side, could just sweep through Chase's team. None of these Pokemon are particularly bulky, and none of these Pokemon have insanely high physical defense. We're seeing the Terastallization come in here. It is a Terra Flying. This is going to be Terra Flying, Acrobatics, or item lost, boosted Roaring Moon. Iron Crown goes for the Protect, hoping maybe we're going to get a target or two into it. Goes for a Detect on the Urshifu. Unfortunately, you're not preventing any fake outs. You're trying to stall out a turn of Tailwind. If you can, then maybe the Miraidon can come in from the back along with anything else and make some magic happen. High Horsepower comes through into the Iron Crown. The Acrobatics is blocked. And now if you're Justin, you just hit the same two moves again. Almost certainly, you have 2 turns of Tailwind left. You're trying to maximize your damage. You have 2 super effective move options here. And if you're Chase, both these are going to be doing big damage into anything that you try to switch in. Almost anything. Like I said, there were some other things that Chase had, some interesting mons, but I don't think anything wants to be taking a high horsepower or an Acrobatics. Aquajet comes through just trying to get any damage in because Chase knows that this Roaring Moon is going to be coming in and doing massive damage. Urshifu gets absolutely obliterated. That is some true gymnastics, acrobatics right there from the Roaring Moon. High Horsepower comes through. We already knew the Iron Crown was slower, even without the tailwind. And this time, the robot horse goes down, no problem. Once again, we are still in a 2v2. Calyrex has a little bit of damage on it. There's one turn of tailwind left, but that might be all Justin needs. We're going to have to see how fast this Calyrex Ice is, if it survives, and what Chase has brought. And it's the Ursaluna in the back. Once again, trying to anticipate maybe that he can take advantage of a trick room that Justin sets up. Instead, Justin goes for the tailwind, uses this mixed speed Calyrex to the absolute fullest potential. There's still one turn of tailwind left. Chase knows that this Miraidon does not have protect and can safely take it out this turn, leaving this Ursaluna, which is slower than both of his remaining Pokemon on the battlefield, to have to simply chill out. There is no guts boosted facade here. There is no guts boosted anything coming from the Ursaluna. It is almost certainly not going to be able to take a knockout on this turn. We're going to have to see what this Miraidon gets up to. It's going to take a miracle for Chase here. Even though Chase had 4 Pokemon to Justin's 2, the 4 Pokemon in question just might not be enough against these 2 monsters on Justin's side. We're seeing a Terastallization come out here from the side of Chase. It's going to be the Ursaluna, and it is going to be into that Terra Normal. You might as well try to get a facade off. You might as well try to get some damage out onto something here. Knockoff comes out from the Roaring Moon. Miraidon goes down to half HP, and the choice specs are gone. The boost is out of here. Discharge comes through. You're dealing damage to your own Ursaluna, dude. It's no longer a ground type. Roaring Moon goes down. The discharge is super effective on the flying type, but if you're Calyrex, you're just hitting the Glacial Lance here, and this is going to take out both of them almost certainly. And there you have it. Justin Tang with the double KO gets the 2-0. That was an extremely impressive recovery from Justin Tang. That is an almost ideal situation with this very, very creative team with 2 mixed speed tiers that Justin is able to take advantage of. The tailwind from the Roaring Moon, combined with having the Trick Room option on the Calyrex, makes it incredibly hard for your opponent to judge which direction they have to combat against. That Ursaluna in the back, it's nice and all, same with the Iron Crown, but if the Calyrex outspeeds them, which both ostensibly could do major damage or be answers, especially that Iron Crown, it just doesn't matter. It is a very, very creative team with the Roaring Moon, with the Calyrex, surrounded by a suite of very strong, powerful Pokemon, including that Landorus Incarnate. And Justin Tang played those last few turns masterfully. Getting a healthy Roaring Moon and getting a healthy Calyrex onto the field together with a Tailwind set up seems to be an incredibly powerful win condition, especially when there's no Incineroar on the enemy team. That said, that is just our first round that we're going to be reviewing, not today, but in these videos. Congratulations to Justin Tang on that first win in this series. If you want to go check out the live stream of the San Antonio Regionals, you can check it out on the official Pokemon channels, both on Twitch and on YouTube. And if you want to see the rest, I'm not going to spoil any of the rest, but that is going to be it for us here. Going to be continuing this hopefully throughout however long I can keep it up. Until next time, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.